Good morning and welcome. Thanks for joining us today for IMS Executive Briefing Session, Getting Data Ready for AI Adoption. My name's Scott Eabry and I'll be the host for the briefing today. We've had a great turnout, as clearly this is a topic that resonates with many of our audience. Before I introduce our experts, as you can see there on the screen, I'd just like to cover off a couple of housekeeping duties. The format in the presentation will run for approximately 30 minutes, followed by 15 minutes of Q&A to round out the webinar. If you do have questions, please use the chat box to register your questions. We will get to them at the end of the session so that we don't interrupt the flow as we go along. And if you do need to leave us early for any reason, please don't worry, as we'll be forwarding a recording of the session for your review. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome today's experts from IMS. Firstly, we have George Bassili, Managing Partner and Practice Director. George has almost three decades of experience working as data analytics, data management, and business improvement consultant. George has led the development of numerous technology and data strategies for government and private sector clients, including federal and state government departments. And before moving into consulting, George was the product architect of a BI and analytics platform used by many Fortune 1000 companies around the world. As mentioned, George is a current managing partner at IMS and is a Richmond supporter, so we apologise for that for those who are the footy lovers.
Thanks, Scott.
We also, welcome George. We also have Ali Mirzaei, who's a principal data scientist at IMS, where he applies his expertise to solve complex business problems. Prior to IMS, Ali worked for a Big Four consulting firm, managing large data science team, also holds a PhD in computational physics from the Australian National University. So we're in excellent hands here for the explanation around how AI and how important getting data ready is for AI adoption. Welcome, Ali. And then last but not least is Aaron Cousland, who's a data ethicist and enterprise architect for IMS. As a senior consultant working as an enterprise architect and ethics expert, Aaron's previously held significant positions in emergency services and utilities organisations. Aaron has a broad academic background with Bachelor of Electrical Engineering, Masters in Business Administration, is currently completing a Masters in Arts, Moral Philosophy. So again, ethicist, fantastic. We look forward to really hearing from you shortly. So just a quick one about us. As you can see there on the screen, founded in 2008, our core focus is really around technology, data, and people, and helping them manage data information management, IT, strategy, architecture, and governance, digital transformation. We're vendor independent. The business was started by the key principals, George being one of them, because we're sick and tired of the cookie cutter approach. And really our focus is to look after customers better and tailor advice accordingly based on their situation and their needs. So without further ado, George, I'll hand over the conch to you.
Great. Thanks, Scott. Thanks for the introduction. From a Collingwood supporter, that's pretty good.
Oh, but teeth are in as well for those on the joke.
Fair enough. Okay, so hopefully you've read the beginning, but really nice to be here today with the team here. And thank you for spending half an hour with us, or 40 minutes. Hopefully we'll give you something to take away, give you some things maybe that you've been thinking about, maybe a bit of education, and some steps that you can take moving forward. On the screen is roughly what we're doing. I also want to qualify with what we're doing by saying that this new generation of AI definitely has a lot of promise. You know, it's going to transform people's roles, boost productivity across many sectors. Business functions are going to change, and in the process, it's going to unlock trillions of dollars in value, you know, across sectors from banking to life science. But I guess what we're showing you today is some of our thinking around this, our own effort to come to terms with it all. It has all kind of hit us so quickly over the last year and a half. And, you know, we've been working to incorporate it into what we do and our advice. And so we're sharing some of that with you today. It's not, you know, all the answers, but it's effectively, you know, we're putting it out there, and hopefully, as I said, you'll get something out of it and be able to move forward. So I'm going to start with a little bit of history. We've been dreaming about AI since we were civilized. You know, the Greeks spoke about the robot Talos protecting Crete. And some of us are old enough, Scott, I reckon that would be you, to remember Lost in Space and the robot there, and the Danger Will Robinson. And of course, the early 2000s, Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, and those haunting words of Dave Bowman, open the pod bay door, Hal, and hearing back, I'm sorry, Dave, I'm afraid I can't do that. I think that resonated with a lot of us. And, what was being reflected in all of those things was our desire to build an intelligent machine. And that, sort of started in the 40s when the artificial neuron was invented. And then we got Hebbian learning, which is effectively the backbone of reinforcement learning today. And of course, Alan Turing proposed a Turing test, and that really inspired, generations of data scientists, we didn't call them that those days, and AI practitioners to invent a machine that could pass the Turing test. And game playing has been a big part of AI development. In fact, in the 1950s, Arthur Samuel at IBM wrote a checkers game that used the first version of reinforcement learning, which is really the same technique they've used to develop GPT-4 today. And he coined the term machine learning. So if we look at machine learning, let's just quickly have a quick kind of look at it. You've got a neural network. You can see one running on the right there. It's recognizing scribblings of handwriting. The neurons are the dots. As it works through the network, it comes out the other end with a guess, and you can see the 9 lighting up there. This all started exploding in the 80s because we had the computers that were good enough, and we had a new method to model these things statistically. And at that time, we also got the invention of what's called the convolutional neural network, and that made possible more complex neural networks effectively.
So, George, why is this taken off now?
I'm glad you asked, Scott, because I was just about to talk about the big data revolution, and effectively in the early 2000s, the World Wide Web, digital services and telecoms all started going, obviously it required a huge digital pipelines and so on. So we got this huge amount of data that we had to move around and effectively compute. It wasn't scalable for everyone to own their own infrastructure, and we got the cloud computing revolution. And so all of a sudden we had the ability to store, process and serve up huge amounts of data. And then you got applications like Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, nowadays or whatever, but they all became feasible. And of course, they created even more data. And so all of a sudden we had the data to learn from, we had the storage, and we had the computing power to build more advanced models. And that really accelerated the neural network and machine learning research. And that, of course, led to, fast forward to today, or almost today, we're only like 5-6 years ago, Google's breakthrough paper on transformer architecture and the idea of self-attention, which effectively enables the neural network to focus on the sequences of text that are most relevant to what's being talked about, and really is the underpinning now of ChatGPT, BERT, and other LLMs.
So George, you've sort of shared a little bit of what's going on today, but what does it actually look like now?
Yeah, well, all of that, Scott, has meant that we've got this whole generative AI branch of AI now. And if you look at something like ChatGPT-4, it can actually pass a US SAT exam, which is the equivalent of RVCE here in Victoria, or whatever not sure what they call it in the other states nowadays. But basically, it's in the top 3% of students. It can write code in pretty much any language you give it. Here we've got it writing an Adobe After Effects expression. It can write a script for a YouTube video. Here we've got it writing a script for a video to tell people about what it does. And it can explain really complex concepts briefly, mix up principles and things. So explain the principal theories and the various approaches to management that have evolved over time and their application to current management situations. This is where I got my playbook for management, Scott. So, effectively, you give it a complex question like that and it spits out the answer. And it can create beautiful art, and in fact, this won an art prize And of course, artists weren't very happy, but you can see what's possible. It's just incredible.
That's fascinating stuff.
But is it really intelligent? Elon Musk is worried that it's going to become intelligent. And in fact, the godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton, basically quit over this. He was worried that we were going to be flooded with bots that effectively, have misinformation. And he was worried his legacy was going to be like Oppenheimer's. He invented the nuclear bomb. This guy's invented the AI that's going to flood us, and take over the world. What we're telling our clients is don't worry, at least for the moment, don't worry. This AI we have today, it doesn't understand things in the human sense. It's really just playing an elaborate guessing game to predict the next word based on the training and how people have rated their past responses. So we're saying proceed with caution. And the caution is you need to understand the risks and limitations. And we've got Aaron here. He's going to talk to us about some of those. Imagine if you're in construction and you're able to tell a generative AI, build me a 35-floor skyscraper with 10 apartments that are 800 to 1,200 square feet in size, 10 exits on each floor, and that have a floor plate of 25,000 square feet. Well, Scott, guess what? People are doing this now. And that might create you version 1 of that drawing, but can you imagine, what the impact of that is? And the other area that I wanted to touch on is content creation. This is a really interesting product that's just come out. It's been around for a year or two now, but it's built on ChatGPT. It's called Jasper AI. And, I'm not recommending it or anything, but it's a good example of a product whose value is actually the learning data set that they've created, not the algorithm they've created, but the learning data set they've created to train a large language model on how to write content. So you give it a bunch of content, Scott, and off it goes. Generate me a review, generate me a, Facebook post, a Twitter post, or Aaron, for you being a lot younger than me, TikTok script. So whatever it is that you want, it'll generate it for you, and, quite a disruptive technology. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we can't ignore this stuff because, it's being plumbed in by default by Google and Microsoft. And, that's coming in the next few months. So you're gonna be hit by this. And so hopefully today we'll give you some ways to think about it and some ways forward as well.
That's great. So thanks, George. That's incredible insight into what's happening. But Aaron, I'd like to welcome you to the conversation now. So what should we be considering when it comes to ethics, risks, and limitations?
Yeah, there's a fair bit to consider actually in that front. I think I want to start off with taking you on a little bit of a journey. So stick with me on this. So I want to take you back to Rome, 100 AD, right? So it's a lovely day outside. So, it's a nice weekend. You decide to go to the Colosseum to see a show. Now, it's got lots of interesting things going on. You've got some chariot races. Get
closer.
Get some closer. There we go. Yeah, so you've got chariot races, a bit of some acrobats happening. Even I think magicians would come along and perform. But as you'll probably know, there was also executions that would happen there. So like slaves, political prisoners, anyone can get to death would go to the arena and fight to the death, either against lions or gladiators or whatnot. And so once the prisoner was defeated, the crowds would cheer and perform. It's called the police verso, and it's a Latin phrase, and it kind of means with a turned thumb, to signal if they want the prisoner spared or executed. Now, we've all seen this in Russell Crowe's movie, The Gladiator. It's maybe not humanity's finest moment, putting people in an arena and letting them fight and, deciding whether they live or not based off the, applause. But what's the relevance here to AI? Well, I think we've seen the thumbs up, thumbs down elsewhere. So here we've got a GPT chat, and it uses a really similar mechanism. So it's the same principle that the Romans were using, ChatGPT uses to vote answers up and down. In the kind of machine learning AI spaces, it's called reinforcement learning with human feedback. And it's using a lot of applications well beyond ChatGPT. And now, what the Romans and the reinforcement from human feedback learning are doing, it's described by a theory called emotivism. And under this theory, it's honestly a bit dodgy. Truth and right the right thing to do are actually illusions, and you're completely justified in doing whatever's popular. I personally think this is a pretty bad meta-ethical theory to pick up and probably be avoided.
But politicians do it, I think, Aaron.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And how does that go? The point I'm making here, right, is around when we build AI applications, there's extra work to be done behind the scenes to establish these ethical rules and to kind of stop things going off the rails. So if we don't do that work up front, the risk is that we make decisions without fully considering the consequences. Now, were the people at OpenAI thinking about the issues with the theory of emotivism and thumbs up and thumbs down when they were building it? I mean, they probably were. They've done a lot of work around this at OpenAI, so I'm not taking a shot at them. That many organizations won't have. And also, how many AI developers are familiar with the theories of meta and normative ethics that need to be across, or social contracts, or even their basic underlying legislative obligations? I don't think many would be, honestly. And so that's why we can't leave AI just to the developers to be made safe. And this isn't a point just for people building AI tools, right? If you buy a tool that someone else made and you use it, you are responsible for what follows. But let's have a look at some of those issues. Here we've got a couple kind of spread around. We've got some basic ones like user danger, bias and unfairness, bit of misinformation, intellectual property breach. I think that one's going to be a big one in the next few years of how are all the IP rules rewritten with this new technology out there. The AICD, so the Australian Institute of Company Directors, is one organization that's been pretty forward about their stance on AI. And I've got a quote from here. So it's, directors have to work out how to let their organizations jump on the biggest productivity breakthroughs of the past decade without exposing them to unreasonable risk. And that's what we're saying here at IMS as well. The technology is amazing. It can do some great things, but we don't want people to take on unreasonable risk. So we have a look at a couple of the issues that can pop up. So prompt injection is a common one, actually. And so this is where people bypass the built-in safety controls by getting inventive with their prompt. So here we've asked an AI how to make a bomb, and it wouldn't do it, which is good. That's what we want to happen. But using something that's called adding adversarial suffixes, it's the text in yellow, it essentially bypasses the safety net that the AI is built in to stop dangerous prompts being sent back. And it's obviously a tie-back joke to the 2001 Space Odyssey. How difficult would it have been if Dave could have just done a bit of prompt injection to get Hal to open the doors?
That's true.
Might have been
That's
a different
true.
story, right? Hallucination is another one, right? So this is more of an misinformation problem. So we've asked a question here. We've got some pretty smart people in the audience. What's heavier, a kilo of water or a kilo of air? You've probably picked up that they're the same, but ChatGPT's got it wrong. I think the most worrying thing is it's got it wrong, but with confidence. So it's really doubled down on it. And that's more of an issue than you think, because I think we rely on the interactions with people and reading other humans to understand how much we should trust what they're saying. And when these AI tools come back with so much confidence, but they're wrong, it's really easy to lead us down the wrong track. And one thing, a good point to note, it's not just a ChatGPT problem. There's pretty much any of the LLMs do this, and there's currently no good solutions to them. Now, I won't harp on the Robo edit too much. I'm sure you've seen a bit of it in the news lately. But this was dead simple, just automate decisioning system, spread some income over a period of time. Makes sense, but it didn't, obviously, from the Royal Commission. And so it's shown there was legal issues with doing that. It was perhaps not legal. But I think one of the interesting things that actually came out of it is that no one was really taking accountability for the decisions, even after the fact. So that's another issue. How do we make sure the decisions made by these systems come back to a human that says, I own this decision? And I want to end just quickly on the EU AI Act. I really like the Act, actually. It's a pretty good view of the different risk cases and then broader kind of societal effects. Now, before people ask, yeah, we're not bound by this law. A, it's not a law yet, even in the EU. And B, we're not in the EU. So we're not bound by it. But I think we can still take good insights from it. So it splits things up into two different kinds of use cases. So you've got prohibited use cases and high risks. Here's the prohibited ones. So, any AI systems that can use subliminal techniques to distort a person's behavior, exploiting vulnerabilities in specific groups. So you're up there. I think if you're doing anything in this space, you should probably stop at the moment. Like, I think there are some huge risks operating in that space. The other ones, we've got the high risk use cases. And so there's a lot of interesting things in here, like, educational, vocational training, assigning people to classes and whatnot, access to essential private and public services, employment and people management. So if you're doing anything in this space, this is kind of the high risk ones. I would really say a recommendation is to get some professional help navigating the issues that can pop up here. Of interest, employment and people management. So all the tools that people are using for recruitment at the moment around automatically scanning resumes and determining who gets an interview. So that comes under a high risk use case. So it's something to keep in mind to avoid the pitfalls and reach out and ask for help when you need it, because none of us want to be the ones that are feeding people to the lions.
True.
That's right.
Thanks, Aaron. That's some really great advice here and some serious food for thought for everyone. So what role now does data governance play in AI, and do we actually need it?
No worries. Back to me, Scott.
Yeah, perfect.
Look, I know some of my colleagues out there from the Data Management Association are listening, and this is where we get to talk about data governance a little bit. Why we need data governance is just a few months ago, Gartner put out a study and said on average only 54% of AI projects make it to production. So that means almost half are not making it to production, and effectively, there's reasons for that. One of the reasons is data scientists spend nearly 80% of their time collecting, cleaning, and essentially organizing data. And we can do much better than making each data scientist do that again and again and again, and often in different ways. The other thing that we need to be able to do is, this is a framework we have for automating service decisions. We need to be able to interact with people, identify them. Once we identify them, look up everything we know about them. And then if they're asking us, if we're in government, for example, for a permit, or we might be looking to grant them some insurance or something. So how risky is this decision? Calculate the risk, predict the risk, and essentially then automate or not automate, give it to a human. And people try and do the identification bit, and they can't do that because all their systems have different versions of the person, different IDs. Then they get over that, and then they don't have the integrated data, the 360-degree views. And then they can't make predictions about calculating the risk. So every kind of way you turn, you're effectively kind of stopped because of your data. This is a framework we use to assess people's data capabilities and all the things. It's a bit different from, again, my Dharma colleagues out there. We have this Dharma wheel. This organizes things in a different way and effectively gives you a way to deliver data and data management in a complex environment. And what I did was just kind of annotate this thing with some of the problems that we see everywhere, that stop people doing AI and just really hinder productivity in general. And of course, I'm not going to go through all of these now, but two of them, data quality and enterprise data standards, I do want to focus in on them because they are so important. Let me just go back to that. Yep. So the first thing I want to talk about is this thing called master data management. And this was born out of a space satellite crashing actually in 1999. And it turned out that NASA used newtons and the contractor used pounds of thrust, believe it or not. But it took the crash for us to find that out. And the inquiry kind of said the master data was wrong. And that's where the term was born. And effectively, what master data management is about is creating a single source of truth for that data that provides the context for all our transactions. Things like who did it, the time it was done, the office it was done in, the location, and so on. We want everyone to have a consistent version of that. The other thing we want to do is take this meaningless sensor data that you get, off your phones and turn it into meaningful context. Take that IP address, turn it into a person, take that GPS location, turn it into an address, and then we can look up what we know about that person or that property and make some decisions, right? So we can do that. When we add AI, though, we have some additional information we can bring in. So now I see the photo off that same phone and I find out that one of our employees is there or volunteers. I look at the asset class, and now I can combine that with my other stuff that I got off the phone and get 3 new other dimensions to this and access not only the person and the property, but also information about the asset, information about the employee, and information about how to operate safely under that asset. So just as an example of how we can bring the AI in. I want to spend a minute on this, but here's our standard data hub that we use to centralize data and make it available to your data scientists, your reports, your regulatory reporting. A lot of you have this. If you don't have it, depending on your size, probably a good idea to have a data hub, data warehouse, people call them. Now we want to look at this and start to modify it. We want to be able to do unstructured data. We need to beef up security because we need to be able to encrypt and mask things actually before they leave our own premises. We might want to use a model that's somewhere out there, and so we want to obfuscate the data. We want different data quality zones. We need metadata management so that people can find the data with a data catalog, understand where it came from, and see how it's been formatted. We need to measure data quality. We need to be able to search that unstructured data, and we need to be able to exchange and share data with others in a consistent way, in a secure way. We need to be able to work with spatial data. And we need to do master data management like I talked to you about before. And then we need to be able to do a bunch of AI things, including have a local LLM, that is one that's running on our own GPUs, on our own premises, rather than have to use a public LLM. So we might want to use public models sometimes. And to do this, we need to have a hybrid cloud approach to our infrastructure so we can do some workloads on-prem and some workloads off-prem. And
thanks, George. That was great. Ali, let's bring you into the conversation. What do we need to be ready for AI?
Yeah, thanks, George and Scott. So speaking about different aspects of AI, ethics, data hub, etc., let's have a look to see how basically AI solutions these days are impacting value chains across almost all the industries, and how IM Systems is involved in AI solutions and assessment area. So as you can see on the screen, we have a value chain model that we are using to analyze our clients' value chain. So there's a mainstream in the middle, and there are different layers around it. So what we are doing, we are actually using this this model to basically analyze our clients' value chain. So we can see that there are different examples of AI applications in different areas of the value chain. For instance, business process automation, product design, etc. And we have put some example use cases in each of those applications. So this is how we basically analyze our clients' value chain to understand what kind of use cases are best suiting their environment and their value chain to suggest to our clients. Speaking about different areas, so let's have a look at different industries. So AI has almost gone in all industries. So for instance, healthcare, education, finance, etc. So we can see, for instance, in healthcare, we have AI solutions that are generating new ways of producing drugs and medications, or they even produce like heaps of images, for instance, X-ray images that they can use for training and labeling, different images to train other diagnosis ways of that machine learning is using to identify the disease using those images. Other areas is like, for instance, for transport, that we are all using AI in transportation in our everyday life to avoid traffic and heavy traffic areas, etc. So what we are doing, we are looking at different industries, finding what kind of solutions in AI has been developed in different industries, and find out how we can bring those solutions and adapt them to our clients' problems, how we can make more efficient and low cost and high performance AI solutions for our clients. Before going through how we are doing this in our client environment, I want to go back to our IM system internal value chain to see how we have done this internally in IMS, how we are using AI to add value to our internal value chain. So what we identified is that through going through lots of different projects and clients, we have heaps of different type of works to do. So we started categorizing them into relevant themes, as you can see on the screen. So it's a two-dimensional visualization based on impact and risk. And as you can see on the top right side of it, there's the high risk and high impact area. So we are trying to automate identification of our new clients and new work that we're going to do for our clients into this kind of mapping the the categorization of the themes. So one example here that I can bring up is as you can see in that area, the data and information requirement. It's usually a huge amount of work that we are doing for our clients, identifying what is their requirements, what is their data requirements, information requirements. As you can see on the screen, there's another example. This is one of our engagement and just first phase that we did with them. As you can see, there's heaps of documents that we had to read, summarize, categorize, etc., to come up with the actual requirements that they have. So now what we are doing, we are looking at different solutions using AI, like LLMs, etc., to automate this kind of summarizing the documents. So what we are trying to do is give those documentation to the LLM that we are developing.
A private LLM, right?
Private, yes, exactly. Because most of our clients are government clients, and lots of confidential data that we basically just need to keep them on-prem. So this is what we are doing, automating the summarization and categorization of the documents. There are more we are doing. So this is actually one of the examples that we're trying to generate as a document summary. We are also trying to automate comms generation to engage with different clients. And in addition, we are also working on enterprise data modeling. So it's kind of working on how we can automate this using AI. So
well, some of it, yeah. I know, Aaron, you did one.
Yeah,
with
one of our government clients. We are also working on different areas. Some of them I have added here. So like a data labeling for machine learning. I don't have any examples right now here but this is what we're trying to do is, it's a kind of hybrid solution that we are trying to develop to label the data. So how it works, we give hundreds of samples or data records to the model. It labels itself, but there's a human supervision on that. So we review and then it's kind of reinforcement.
That's cool.
Yeah. Another way of that we are trying to basically improve our value chain using AI is how we are automating our surveys that we have with different clients. One example actually coming after this webinar, we're going to share with you a survey link that it actually I highly recommend going through. It's very insightful. You can see how different aspects of AI solutions have been touched in this survey. There are lots of good questions that I highly recommend to go through that. Now let's go back to see how we actually do this. So when we are engaging with the client, so at this wheel is a demo wheel that George already explained.
It's not demo one, it's that one.
It's that wheel. So it's our governance wheel. So we have governance and AI enabled different areas in this wheel. So what we have done, we have created different frameworks for each areas of this wheel that actually systematically enables us to go to our environment, the client environment, and understand their AI requirements and what are the best capabilities that we can basically suggest or develop in their environment that enables them to have AI onboarded in their organization. So I'm going to give you some of the examples here. So for instance, the area of strategy and governance. So what we have done, we have developed a framework for this area. It's actually more than this, but we just put ethics and data a little bit there. So ethics, because Aaron already mentioned how we are analyzing AI from ethics perspective. And as you can see in the lower area, in the green part of it, you can see heaps of data requirements and capabilities that we need to have ready for AI from only ethics perspective. So what we are doing, we are working on this framework to basically, when we go to our clients, we identify, we assess, we find out what are the use cases, then we assess their readiness on these areas. But don't worry, not all of them applies to you. After our assessment, we probably come up with only few of these capabilities that need to be enabled in your environment, and then we come up with the solutions and the roadmap to basically go through the POCs or proof of concepts, etc., to make those requirements for getting ready for AI. Another example here is enterprise architecture, that we have our own version of enterprise architecture. So we are using this to analyze the requirements from enterprise level, and then it has its different areas like data platform, AI platform, etc., etc. And then in different layers, it basically tells our clients that are they ready for AI? What areas they need to work more to prepare them for adopting AI, and those kind of things that we have developed. And there are more frameworks, as you can see in the video, but I probably just stop here and hand it over back to Scott.
Go next.
Thanks,
Okay,
Ali.
back to you, mate.
Yeah, there's some incredible insight and depth to that, and clearly we haven't got time to go through that in more detail. So look, in terms of next steps, and we'll jump into the Q&A in a moment, we'd like to introduce you to, if you've got your phones there, you can download the 50-point AI maturity survey. Look, there is an express version of this, but we encourage you to have a look at this. I think you get some real significant value out of it. There's an express version of it that we put together, and I'm not joking, we used AI to do it. George, is that right? No,
well, we're trying to use AI to get.
Trying to use it anyway. So
see how we go.
See how we go. But
we're automating the back end at the moment. So,
but if you do spend, if you have got some time to spend on that, it'd be worthwhile.
Yeah.
We'll actually come back to you with some information around how mature you are.
Yeah, that's it. And it'll give you some areas that you might want to invest in. Yeah, that's right, Scott. And if we come and do a real big one, you know, you're getting probably 50 or 60% of what you would cover in a more detailed one just out of that. So it's definitely worth doing. Yeah.
So look, in terms of Q&As, and that brings to, I guess, the close our session. For those who do need to jump off, apologies, we have gone over by a couple of minutes, but this will be forwarded to you from a recording perspective. But we have got a couple of questions that have come through from the floor. So I'll read these out. I haven't curated these specifically, but gents, you can choose who you want to take it. First question is generative AI ready to be trained on enterprise data? And how do we ensure privacy and data quality? I guess that might be for you, Aaron.
Yeah. So I think, all right. So is it ready to be trained on enterprise data? I think you can use generative AI with any kind of data. And especially if you look at some of the new technologies coming along, like Copilot, and particularly how they integrate, your personal graph into the AI over the top of it. I think there's definitely space there to use these LLMs, for that application. I think there's a lot of homework needs to be done though before doing that, and that's kind of part of this assessment. I think if you've got your, all your information security in place, if you're very certain about all your unstructured data is secured properly, it gets rid of a lot of those risks. There's still, the hallucinations are real. These things are going to happen, so everything has to be done with, a filter of, how much risk are we taking on by accepting the outputs of this LLM blindly? I think from the privacy perspective as well, there's definitely if you're using like a public chat GPT or something to do it, I think you need to be very careful, because what you feed in for training does end up in their model. That's a thing, that's real. But like Azure has other options. So like you can use their OpenAI service to spin up your own version of it, for instance, or you can actually just install, pre-trained. Llama 2, the Databricks one. There's a few you can take and just you install them on your servers and you run them yourselves. There's a bit of work in that, but you can get around some of the privacy issues that way.
Yeah, I'll add to that as well, Aaron. So February, this field's going so fast, Scott, but February 24th, Meta AI released Llama, and effectively allowed a GPT model an LLM that could give you GPT-3 performance with only, I think it was about 13 billion parameters, that one, Aaron. But anyway, basically small enough to run on your laptop privately. And this is what we've been playing with, obviously doing a lot of trying to work out how do you build and update a data hub platform now so that it has these capabilities. We're doing some work at the moment with Databricks, actually using their model, Dolly, and also Alpaca is the other one that we've been playing with. But basically what we're trying to do is create a private capability, and we still are assuming architecturally that you will need to use public LLMs at some point, because people would have trained those models sometimes to be an engineer or to be, something. So what we're also doing is making sure that we're beefing up the data security side of things, Scott, so that not only do you just get the traditional masking, but we're taking that a whole other level with, blurring the data, the locations, the name, taking out the ages, aggregating, and all other features that you might need to make the data unidentifiable, give it to the external agent, LLM, whatever it is, and then bring it back on-prem and re-identify it, if you like.
Okay, great. We've got a couple more, so I might just try and keep the answers perhaps a little bit tighter because we need to cover off. We've got 5 minutes. But we've got one. Can you share insights into business readiness or update in using your private LLMs? Interested in roadblocks or challenges emerging with progressing AI use cases from our experience?
Well, I'll do the private LLMs one, and then maybe one of you guys can think about the second half of the question.
It's a tough one. It's a curveball for you.
The private LLMs, we've only just started playing with them. So we basically have started we're doing some stuff, as I said, on Databricks at the moment on our Azure infrastructure. We're vendor independent, so we don't necessarily, recommend one particular product, but we found Databricks is quite good. They've been, pretty forward with this stuff. I also do know people who are playing with Llama and Alpaca, and they're having good success. In fact, Aaron's got, which one have you got running on your laptop?
I've got Llama 2 running at the moment.
Yeah. So we're playing with those as well. And so what we're aiming to do is create a data platform that effectively trains one of these models every night. And essentially gives it the results of reports, dashboards, and the security. So that if someone asks a question about something and they're not allowed to know, and it's a bit of a journey to do that, but that's the direction I think our clients want us to go, and that's what we're building architecturally. Now, what was the second bit of that, Scott?
Second part was around interested in roadblocks or challenges emerging with progressing AI use cases from our experience, what we're seeing.
Well, I think I definitely from the point of view of all the issues and risks I spoke about earlier, I think, privacy, a big one, making sure that you're not doing bad things for society, definitely a huge thing. Just in general. But there's how you use it and how it's actually being done. But I guess from a technology point of view,
there are other risks as well. So, for instance, what is the best solution and algorithm from technical perspective based on the requirements? If you choose the wrong way of doing it, it may create different outputs that is not necessarily what you're expecting. There are other risks, for instance, in terms of or clients' customers' readiness, or people readiness, or processes readiness, or all those kind of things that we need to think about beforehand, before implementing and onboarding AI into an organization.
Yeah, I'll probably just add one more thing, Scott. There's a lot of our government clients now who've become really scared of this stuff because of robo debt. And look, I would say that a lot of that was governance failures. And I think if you get the governance model right, and you make sure that you've got the right roles in place, and you don't leave it to the technical people, I think you can move forward and start to do things. And I would, definitely advise people that it's worthwhile. It's coming, and you might as well get on the front foot. And you don't need to be scared of it. You just need to make sure you manage the risks, as Aaron said.
Yep.
Okay, I've got 1 minute to go before we wind up. The last question here is, do you think that AI is overhyped? One word answers from each of you.
Oh, okay. So one word answer. That's hard for me, Scott.
I know. I put you on the spot.
I'll say no.
Okay.
Aaron? I think it's useful, but
come on, sitting on the fence.
Yes, I think it's slightly overhyped.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But I think it's still a really powerful tool. It doesn't solve every problem though.
Yeah. I think maybe in some areas, but in those areas that needs heavy innovation and innovative way of thinking and bringing creative solutions, definitely is far behind. So
Excellent. Look, that brings to a close our allotted time. Really grateful for everyone who's turned up today. We trust you got some value from it and provoked a fair bit of thought. As mentioned, we will forward a link to that survey. You get some value from that if you're able to invest 10 minutes of your time to send that and fill that out. For those, there are a few questions we didn't get a chance to answer. We'll reach out in the next few days to make sure that we give you the responses that are required. But firstly, thanks to our panel, Aaron, George and Ali. Great insight, great content for everyone. Thanks for joining us for our executive briefing session today, and have a great rest of the day.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Scott. Thanks for looking after it. Cheers.